Hi, welcome to Ladies of Another View. I'm Beck. Today, a little later in the day, we're going to have a guest, Eric Lowe, who had multiple arrests, 9 years in prison, and he has a whole new life now that he's going to tell us about. But first, I want to introduce, we have Kendi, Jan, and Mary with us today. And we're going to start out by talking about women and transgender women. I don't know what to call them all the time.
They're
in
men.
Sports.
They are men.
Yeah.
That identify as transgender.
Among us, yes. Okay. So we've had a couple senators introduce a bill called the Protect Women's in Sports Act. And first of all, there was a big case last summer. There were 3 girls from Connecticut who felt that they had their opportunity to run in the state track championship taken away from them because there were 2 transgendered girls, boys identifying in girls, that they didn't have a chance against. And in Connecticut, there's 19 states where you don't even have to take hormones to try to level the playing field. So they felt like we didn't even have a chance. So they made this. Here's a little clip from a video they made last summer.
No, when I step up to the line, I am the fastest girl.
But that will never be enough. This isn't about self-expression.
This is about a woman's right, my right.
To win.
They won their case. I'm happy to say they did an investigation. So the Trump administration's Department of Education and Office for Civil Rights decided in their favor that it wasn't fair. But the fight's not going to be over. So Representative Gabbard from Hawaii and Representative Mark Wayne Mullen from Oklahoma have introduced Protect Women's Sports Act. And they seek to clarify the Title IX protections for female athletes were based on biological sex. Because a lot of people are saying if we declare them legally, if these born boys, biologically boys, but they decide they're women, if we say they're women, we got to treat them like women. But when it comes to sports, it's a whole nother story. So here's just some of what they said in the act. Representative Gabbard said, our legislation protects Title IX's original intent, which was based on the general biological distinction between men and women athletes based on sex. Representative Mullen said, as the father of 3 girls involved in athletics, I want them to be able to compete on a level playing field. I am proud to lead this bill that will safeguard the integrity of women's sports and ensure female athletes can compete fairly. No surprise that there's other opinions out there, people that are angry, and it's funny that a lot of people on the left that ordinarily agree with one another are very divided on this issue.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting because Saturday I was out with a friend and this topic actually came up. And I didn't know that this bill was even being discussed. And I thought, wow, this is interesting that we're talking about it today on the show. But it was a guy that I was with. So it was interesting to hear his perspective on it. And he just said it is so wrong for men, regardless of how they identify sexually, to feel that they can compete with women. And I thought it was really interesting that Congressman Gabbard said, it's the height of hypocrisy for anyone who claims to be an advocate for women's rights to also simultaneously deny the biological existence of women. How can someone claim to be a champion of women while denying our very existence? And so when it comes to sports, we can identify, I think most of us can recognize that men and women are built differently, and that if we want to protect sports for both men and women, we need to allow them to compete biologically in a realm that's fair.
I think that this goes on to a whole plethora of different subjects because this is kind of celebrated in the schools now. The teachers are encouraging or not discouraging this fluidity, and schools that receive federal funding are supposed to provide separate programs and opportunities for females based on their biological sex according to Title IX. But the girls, they immerse themselves in social media and they get a repetitive message about how they should change their pronouns and have a coming out day and that type of thing. And they're doing the same thing with boys, and now they think that they can have this advantage over girls, and it's not equitable.
You know, it's not. It's frustrating. I did run track for Minot State Beavers, by the way, and enjoyed it. But there's no way I can compete against the guys. We'd have drills together all the time, but the guys would beat us each and every time because they are built differently, and that's the way God intended us to be. And we just can't say we're something else if we're born one way. Now I know there are some exceptions. What is it, the hermaphrodites, where there is some issues. So there are some issues, but it's not. We're talking about healthy males that are actually choosing to be a female and wanting to compete in women's sports. It just doesn't make any sense.
When you start messing with nature and then making laws to defend that, then it's not, you open up a Pandora's box.
True.
Because now you have this whole other issue. What about women's sports? Because people looking out for women's rights came up with Title IX so that women athletes would have equal access. It used to be in the high schools that the girls would get pushed off the gym if the boys basketball team was going to practice. Then the girls got pushed away. They didn't get scholarships. Well, now they get scholarships, except some of these girls are missing out on scholarships because someone born a biological male beat them at whatever sport. It's happening a lot in track and field, but it's happening in other sports too. And the converse isn't true. Girls that say, I'm a male, they don't dominate.
Right.
So once again, what's happening here? I thought we fought these fights in the past to give girls and women an equal chance, but instead now the opposite is happening.
So sad. This movement that you're talking of, where it was kind of designed to help women to have this equality, it's actually now, it's turning against us and it's hurting us, and it's something we need to be aware of. And we need to raise a voice within our schools and be a voice for our daughters so that they have opportunities to compete and to do the things that they can do in a fair manner.
And the other voices that disagree are saying, well, we have to look out for the marginalized. And the father of one of the boys who identified as a girl and beat out the girls said, I don't care. That's not my problem.
Okay,
she wants to run.
How about this? Just have a third sport then.
There you go.
Women's track, men's track, and whatever you think you are track.
I can go with that.
Yep.
You know, it's
right.
like,
okay.
But that would make it equal.
Thank you,
So
Mary. Mary, you've solved it. You
Yeah.
solved it, and I want you to
End
tell
of story.
tell
Ding, ding,
Senator
ding.
Kramer when he's here tomorrow.
We'll talk about it tomorrow.
When we come back, we're going to talk about censorship, and we have a lot to say that we don't always get to say. We'll be back just a minute on Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering is the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck, and we're going to talk about censorship because it's happening every time you turn around. That's why we have the show. We have Ladies of Another View because there's a view that doesn't get heard out there that keeps getting censored. And it used to be, I'm old enough that when I was in college, it used to be, free speech, Instead, it's the left that is against free speech now. So that a lot of speakers like Jordan Peterson is saying, men's rights are important too, that men are getting trampled upon. So when he goes to speak at college campuses, I've seen, I didn't want to disturb people, so I didn't use a video, but here's a little picture anyways. But you can see videos of students screaming and yelling, and so that when the speaker is trying to speak, nothing gets heard, or it's impossible. And where's the free speech? And at University of California in Berkeley, there is a professor who actually recommended everybody steal certain books and burn them. Book burning.
Oh gosh.
She said there's one called Irreversible Damage, the transgender craze seducing our daughters. Because she didn't even say I'm against it completely, but she says, hey, look, there's something going on. Our children shouldn't be giving these drugs. There's this craze where it almost seems to be acceptable among groups of girls. We can't do this. And she's been banned from advertising on Amazon. She's banned on college campuses. It's unbelievable, the kind of censorship. And we got censored a bit. Facebook puts up a warning if you try to share yesterday's show. And I don't know if we have that photo. Maybe. Yep, there we are. So when you hit the share button, you're told that the post mentions COVID, and then people are directed where they might want to get good information.
Because you can't trust us at all.
No.
Right?
They got our number. Yeah, I've had other things. And there's been stuff I've said to friends, oh, look, Facebook didn't delete it. And they go, yeah, well, it's not in your algorithms. It won't be in your feed, so people aren't going to find it. So even if they don't take it off your wall. But here's a funny clip. I love J.P. Sears. He says it like it is. So apparently he was warned by Facebook, and this is how he handled it. It's just a little part of his video.
Dear Facebook, I am sorry. You let me know that I'm on the verge of being banned for violating your community guidelines. I'm sorry I violated your community guidelines. I now realize that truth is a direct violation of them. And I promise I will never speak any of it on your platform ever again, in hopes of growing into a stronger person who's allowed to stay on your platform. Accordingly, Facebook, I solemnly pledge to only speak about things that are in accordance with the mainstream narrative that's currently destroying our country. And I will not encourage people to free themselves from the fear of a disease that's currently terrorizing the world with a 99.98% survival rate. And I will not suggest that there's proven treatments for the disease that are highly effective for the people who do get it. And I won't mention how you've censored doctors on your platform from speaking about such treatments.
Oh my gosh.
I love
Good
him.
job.
Look it up because you got to see the whole video. He uses humor, and boy, does he hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have to share a personal story with this in regards to censorship and my own experience with it. And it's not dealing with COVID, but I was raised in a faith where they controlled the narrative completely. I was told, do not read certain literatures. It was deemed anti. And so for the good part of my life, I was afraid to read anything that was not published by this church. Well, the internet opened up a whole new world, and things that were deemed anti suddenly were proven to be fact. And I came to realize how important it is as a person to do research myself. And when someone says, don't look there, don't read that, you can't trust that source, a red flag always goes up for me now, because I have learned that there are a lot of people who want to control what we're hearing to go along with their story, and it leads to captivity and bondage, which is exactly what's happening today with COVID.
I think that we need to learn to question everything.
Amen.
If we take everything at face value, we are going to be in a box, and we are going to have all of our freedoms taken away from us. If you question everything that's presented to you, even if it's not negatively, you're going to be able to learn something you didn't know. You're going to be able to apply it to your life, and you're going to be able to take steps forward in faith instead of fear.
Amen. So, Candy, I just have a question for you then. Were computers available to you growing up, or
Oh, sure.
They were?
I mean, well, the internet didn't become available to me until I was in my 20s. But a lot of the information, I mean, I wouldn't go looking for it because I was afraid to. But it came to a point where so much information was coming out that the church actually had to start addressing these issues. And so they started publishing information, and it was complete whitewashed. But it led me on a journey of searching, and thank you, God, for that.
Amen.
Yeah.
But now that journey is a little harder to make.
Yeah.
Because we've looked for things, and we have to dig and look at sources, because Facebook has Facebook, Twitter, you know, the whole Hunter Biden thing before the election. Why couldn't we find out about that? We talk about First Amendment rights and free speech. It's not the government. It's the left that's shutting us down.
Right, and it's not Facebook and Twitter shutting it down per se. They're just not sharing those stories. It's not out. You can't Google that information. You can't get that information. So I'm not blaming them for hiding everything else on the computer. You got Google to blame and other sources. But if you want to find the true story, you really have to dig. And some of the, like DuckDuckGo is a really good, or it was a really good search engine, but now that has been bought out by Google. So it's kind of funny how these conservative search engines are, once they get to be well known, all of a sudden they get bought out by bigger companies with ulterior motives.
Yeah. So Robert Kennedy Jr., who is somebody that I don't agree with all of his positions, but he has been very vocal about censorship that's occurred specifically in regards to vaccines and COVID-19. He said something that I found to be very interesting. He said it was axiomatic that all the Nazi atrocities had begun with censorship and silencing of critics of government policies. Our civic teachers taught that the free flow of information, even inconvenient truths, was the lifeblood of democracy. Now, I know the image on the screen is not the one that I was hoping for. There's one.
There's another one
in regards to
That's
book burning. There we
right,
go.
There we
so
go.
this is something that Robert Kennedy Jr. has shared, and I think that this is something we need to be aware of. Though books are not being burned today, there is a deliberate burning of information on the internet. And in Nazi Germany, the way that the people were taken under control was by the lack of information that they were able to receive. And so we need to be aware. The censorship czars, each of those people, they are ownership with Facebook, Google, Twitter, Bill Gates. He has huge holdings, and so we need to be aware.
It's so ironic that today's progressives are not kindred spirits with Socrates or Aristotle, but they're kindred spirits with Joseph McCarthy. And I don't know how many people know about him, but he wanted to shut things down and control people. So we're gonna end this segment here, and when we come back, we will be visiting with Eric Lowe, who has a very dramatic story to tell us, going from prison to a whole new life, when we come back on Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here were terrific. We enjoy it.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running, no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire, we keep the tough going.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Coulter Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We have a special guest today. My best friend, one of my best friends. I have to tell you about Eric. He calls everybody their best friend, his best friend. And it's because he just embraces all that life has to give, and every friend is the best friend. But his life was once very different. He graduated from a Catholic school in 1995, and by his senior year, I think it started his sophomore year, started into the drug world, started out with drinking, and he ended up having multiple arrests, multiple treatments, and in the end, on his third offense, he went to prison for 20 years and ended up serving 9 of those years. You want to tell us what happened? get started?
Well, basically, I got lost along the way. My first through 8th grade went well. I was in advanced math, was doing really well, but I got to freshman year, and it seemed everybody had their place. There was the smart people, the good-looking people, the jocks, that everybody had their place, and I didn't really have a spot. And so I kind of ended up finding a group of other people like me, I guess, and we liked to drink. We started drinking and partying, and that's who kind of I became, you know, and that was, yeah, who I was, the partier. Well, then sophomore year, whenever it was, pot somehow it was introduced into the circle, and I started smoking pot, and all of a sudden I was a stoner. And then, yeah, and then all these people I started encircling myself with, you know, we were this group. This was my clique. And
I know you told me that you didn't used to like yourself.
No, and
you didn't even like to look at in the mirror, but somehow drugs made it easier.
No, that's the thing. You know, getting to high school, we were so kind of really just cruel to each other. The things that we said, you know, it's just really awful, the things, how we treated each other. But I got to the point where when I went to the bathroom and whatnot, I wouldn't even look in the mirror because I hated the guy looking back at me. And that just, yeah. And then, so anyways, I started smoking pot. Well, then all of a sudden I have all these friends. I hung out with the prettiest girls because these were my friends and they liked me, you know, and I thought that's who I was. So I dived deeper and deeper. Well, all of a sudden meth comes along. And from my first line on, it made me everything that I wanted to be. I could tell you anything. I wasn't shy. I wasn't this. I wasn't that. So outspoken and whatever, and I just felt on top of the world. Well, all of a sudden people are calling. They want to meet me because I can sell them stuff. And again, falling back to the whole facade that these are my friends. Well,
go ahead.
No, my senior year in high school, one of my good friends wore a wire on me twice. And Judge Haskell tried giving me a chance, a deferred sentence, and but I ended up violating my probation because I couldn't let go of my friends. And I went away for 6 months, but got out and just continued right back into it. And it was because that's who I thought I was.
Now, when you started the drinking, you drank with friends. And your dad had an addiction problem, and he actually bought you your alcohol, right?
Yes. No, my addiction runs really bad on my dad's side of the family. His brother overdosed in the 80s. And my dad was an alcoholic, and, you know, my cousin and whatnot, she's been sober 10, 12 years. And, I mean, it's really hit our family.
And I think in some of our conversations, I've been shocked to realize, because we live in Bismarck, we go to the stores, we have our friends, and we think it's a pretty nice place. But some of the stories you have told me were horrifying. You were actually kidnapped and beat up, and there's this whole underworld that people like us aren't aware of.
Yeah, no, I was ripped off a lot of money, and I was an easy target. So I was kidnapped and beat the snot out of. And there's a few incidences too. I mean, another time where I was jumped by 3 guys, and I was all drug related again too. But I mean, there's a point where I was getting beat so bad that I thought it was over for me. But I mean, it just, by the grace of God, I sit here today, you know.
Well, speaking of the grace of God, between God, you went to a Catholic school, and you went to treatment a few times. Why did nothing, and you served a little time, you were getting in trouble, but why didn't anything make a difference for you?
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. And actually the breaking point for me was back in 2008. One of my good friends, well, it's actually my ex-girlfriend this time, she wore a wire on me and for making it my 3rd delivery of meth with a 20-year minimum mandatory. And that was a lot to take in. I mean, that's 20 years, that's a long time. And yeah, I just was beside myself. My dad, of course, bonded me out. And so, but I didn't use because being on bond, you got to do UAs a few times a week. But I drank then. And it was on October 8th, 2008. I had left a sports page, and they found me over by, when you come off Expressway, that first off-ramp there, they found me, my truck rolled, and they found me 100 feet from my vehicle with 3 broken vertebrae, and my lungs were collapsed. And I wasn't supposed to make it through the night. And by the grace of God, I'm alive today. And that's truly, and from that moment, I haven't had a drink, I haven't had a cigarette, I haven't had anything since.
And was that 2008?
Yep.
So you haven't had anything, but you still had charges pending. So nothing like having your conversion too late, right? Yeah. Because you still had to face the court, and there were a lot of delays because you were in the hospital, and then there was a hearing, and you have this hanging over your head, and you actually were suicidal and you didn't think you could go through with it at several points.
It's the devil loves to whisper in your head about how awful it's going to be, how this and that, and you should kill yourself, you should do this, you should. Yeah.
And there's Eric on the screen.
That's 90s, like 97, 98 Eric right there.
Did you have dreadlocks?
Well, they were.
I wasn't sure.
They weren't dreadlocks, but I always have these.
Braids.
Some of my friends braid them for me.
Okay.
So,
And how old were you there?
That's probably 23 years ago, so probably about 20, 21, 22.
Okay, so you were out of high school, and what would be a typical day for you back then?
Drugs all day. I ended up starting to shoot up drugs. And I mean, that's really what my life consisted of, getting drugs, selling drugs, and trying to pay for all these drugs too. I mean, I never made anything out of dealing. All what it was ever for was for another hit, for another shot, for another whatever it was.
It sounds exhausting.
It
was every day, right? So as soon as you woke up in the morning, is that what you had on your mind?
Yep, it was absolute hell on earth. I mean, like I said, waking up and you owe $2,000-$3,000 and you don't have any of it, and all the people that owe you money, nobody will answer their phone. I mean, that's typical. And then your guys calling with, it's a truly hell on earth lifestyle, and I wouldn't wish it upon anybody.
And yet, there were a few times when you got sober or you got clean, you went to treatment, but then why did you slip back into it?
Because I think the biggest thing is not finding positive activities. Like right now, I go to the gym, I lift. Now, since my incarceration, I started running, but I'm very involved with my church now. I'm a Knights of Columbus. I do a lot of volunteer. Anytime I can help people or do anything worthy. I used to do such bad things, but it feels so good to do good things. And being sober is actually the best high I've ever had. It truly is. There's nothing worse than giving somebody your money and they bring you back sugar or, just a complete, and it's a hell on earth lifestyle.
And it's hard to understand when you get away from it, like why would you get drawn back in? But I think that you can help us understand that, and you can help. We'll talk about what advice he has maybe for parents, and also what was it like in prison. He didn't need any convincing, but then he had to go serve 20 years. So we'll be right back after these messages with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Howdy folks, it's the County Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hay-Bossin breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a comb roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the County Line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering is the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Are you a thrill seeker, sightseer, or day tripper? The Ford Bronco Sport SUV is built for you. Four Bears Casino is giving away a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport loaded with a ton of interior space, safari-style roof, smooth suspension for any terrain, and easy-to-clean surfaces. Qualify now just by playing your favorite slots at Four Bears Casino. Double points on Sundays. Also get in on Super Senior Wednesdays, slot turning Thursdays, and hot seats on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Spin into Four Bears Casino and Lodge for chances to win.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View. I'm back. We are talking with Eric Lowe, who has a very dramatic story. He graduated from a Catholic high school as a meth user and dealer, and he's just high on life now, right? And he's
about
never.
all I can afford.
But he's come a long, long way. And we were talking about just what his life was like. It was really hell on earth. And he was in a car accident, should have died, but for the grace of God. And he signed off of any kind of drugs, alcohol. I don't know. Do you even drink coffee anymore?
Oh,
Probably.
Yeah,
Coffee, yes,
I'm
that's
addicted
okay.
to best friends and coffee.
Okay. Okay.
Awesome.
But he, by the time the charges were filed and it was his third offense, he had to face 20 years in prison. Now, you ended up only serving 9, but you didn't know. You had to go to prison for 20 years. What did that feel like?
Actually, from the day you get in trouble to the day you go to court, I mean, it's hell on earth. That's all that consumes your thoughts. And especially like a 20-year sentence. I mean, it's too big. And like I said, the devil bombards you. Oh, this, you're going to get beat up. You're going to get this. You're going to, I mean, it's overwhelming. I have a friend who I worked with at S&B before I went away. He said it would blow you away if you seen how many cigarettes you sat and smoked all day. And anyways, it's hell on earth. And I really had to I was sober and whatnot, but I really had to that's when I really turned to God. And God really helped me through all of it. Even when I went in, my mom taught me that this too shall pass. And I reminded myself of that. There's many days this too shall pass. And it did.
I thought it was interesting that you right away started going to catechism classes, and you said you learned more in prison about your faith than you had when you were in school or at any other time, that you all of a sudden it was meaningful to you.
And that's the truth. In high school I was so busy hanging out with my friends, being cool, getting high, whatever, but it's like it all went in one ear and out the other. And some of my biggest regrets, or one of my biggest ones, is I didn't try harder, but that's many years ago. But in catechism class in the prison, the teachers that came and they drove from Valley City to Jamestown and whatnot, one of them actually had met Mother Teresa. And when he talks about her, he'll start crying because he's like, I had a living saint pray over me. And the other guy, he is now passed, but I was a pallbearer at his funeral. But these guys were just so on fire for God. And then, the whole group that came in. And they always said, we get more out of it than you guys do. Well, now that I teach CCD class at my church, and I get more out of it, and I know exactly what they're saying.
Now
because
you understand, yeah.
I get more out of the videos and just sitting there talking about God than those kids do.
So you came up before the parole board. You ended up getting out after 9 years, so you got out 11 years early. You have a son.
Yes, a
and
phenomenal
you were
son.
able to reconnect, and you just love and adore him, and it sounds like he loves and adores you, and that you guys have a beautiful relationship. And you did something that a lot of people said was extremely unlikely. You got a pardon from Governor Burgum. Maybe we can show that up. Yep, there it is. He got it.
Yeah, that's my...
Last year, right?
Obviously, Doug Burgum is a best friend, too.
Yeah.
Okay? He's made the list. But no.
So your record is clean, right?
Completely. There's even charges on there I didn't even know. I can actually get insurance now and everything. All my DUIs and everything are taken off. But no, it's just, it's phenomenal. But when I was in prison, my case manager, she pushed and pushed and pushed for me to be seen early. And they were like, no, 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 And finally, one day she came out to my work and she said, well, it's been moved up. And I was like, shut the front door, and here. And I was seen, and I'll never forget when I looked over, because you always think you should have answered it different, when they asked. We did it via satellite or whatever over the TV, but then, while they were breaking, I was like, I think I should have said this or should have said that, but she's like, no, you did great. Well, then they came back on, and then they even said, Mr. Lowe, they gave me parole within 2 months, and they say you've gone above and beyond what's been expected of any inmate. Because I've actually had the news come in and interview me for a project that I started there too. But I looked over at my case manager, and she was sitting there bawling.
Oh.
I mean, these people, the staff there, really are phenomenal. And what breaks my heart is what is said about all of them. And actually working with them, I was always in my case manager's office. Are you working on, being seen early and whatnot, I don't know, maybe when she started crying, she was so happy that I was going to be leaving.
No, I know. I'm sure you were just winning hearts all the time with your upbeat. That's how I met Eric. He was reading Christian books, and a lot of book publishers will send them to the prisons. He wrote a fan letter. You read my book, Amazing Grace for Survivors. He wrote a fan letter to Ascension Press, who forwarded it to me. And I thought, and I knew you knew Father Justin Waltz. So I wanted to write back to him, but you have to be careful. So I called Father Justin and I said, what do you think of Eric Lowe? Is he the real deal? And he goes, oh yeah, he's phenomenal. He's so wonderful. I talk about him in my homilies. So we became pen pals, and I helped you write your story, wrote an article for you. So then you got out, and tell me, how is it that you were able to get pardoned?
Well, let me just tell you real quick before this. Prior to that, I went through a yellow light, got pulled over, and the cop said, I'm going to go write you a ticket. Well, all of a sudden, he runs my record. He wants to search the car. And there's other cars. And that's so... He said, I'm sitting there saying, I'm not that guy anymore. Well, I'm still, and I know they're just doing their jobs. So next thing you know, I'm on the street, on the sidewalk on Washington Street. Well, there's 2 other cop cars there, and they're ripping apart my blazer. And then one time I was going to St. Mary's Church, and I forgot to use my blinker. And the cop was going to go write me a ticket. Well, I ran my record again, and I either had to let him choose or search my vehicle, or he was going to bring dogs up, and it was so embarrassing. And so that was another half hour, 45-minute search while they ripped it apart. Well, I ended up applying for a pardon. And even my PO and everybody, they wrote letters on my behalf. And even my church, I did an article about, I had a lot of family support too, but I turned in for an application for a pardon. And I went before the pardon board, and Mr. Wayne Stenjum, you're sitting here, and then there's a bunch of tables, and everybody, and you get questioned. And before before I went out there that morning, I went and seen Father Wolf at St. Mary's Church, and I asked him, do you have a prayer or blessing for me? And he's like, just Jesus, I trust in you. He said, you know, that's the best prayer. And I knew that prayer because that's the prayer I said before the parole board. It's whatever day I get out, it's whatever day you have planned for me. But so I went before Wayne, and he's like, what happens if you don't get pardoned today? And I said, well, Jesus, I trust in you. I said, if God's plan for me to get pardoned, I will. And Wayne said, well, whoa, way to make it go deep or whatever. And then everybody started laughing. And then one guy asked, will you pray for me, Mr. Lowe, or us? And I said, well, it depends on how today goes. And then everybody started laughing again. But no, and then actually the governor's attorney, Leslie Oliver, she followed me out. And I didn't know who she was at first. But it turns out she had handed me my graduation application from St. Mary's. And I barely remember high school, let alone graduation night. But, you know, we've been reacquainted now and whatnot. But she just, it really is a small world.
Well, we only have a minute left, and I'm glad we got through your story because it's a big one. We could spend a whole hour on what life was like. So what do you have any advice for parents, or like, what would you like to say? Go ahead.
Kids that are starting to dabble in alcohol or drugs. 30 seconds is all you have.
Well, I think everybody needs to know their self-worth. We thought it was so cool to go get drunk it's not. I mean, it's not, and then you're hungover, you're whatever, but you need to learn to love yourself. And you don't need to fit into any, and that's the biggest thing. I mean, even Father Justin Waltz, he was in the Knucklehead crew. I mean, we were all a bunch of boneheads, and we thought we were so, but it's knowing your self-worth and loving yourself.
Amen. Thank you, Eric, for joining us today.
Yeah, well, thanks for your strength for coming on and sharing your story.
It's uplifting just hearing this happy ending story. Mm-hmm. So when we come back, we'll move on to the lighter side with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Howdy, folks. It's the County Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a cum roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather, like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running, no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire, we keep the tough going.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Coulter Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best-built, best-backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View. I'm back. And before we move on to the lighter side, we just want a little time to talk about how much we enjoyed visiting with Eric Lowe. After 9 years, he served 9 years of a 20-year prison sentence for meth, and he was just deep into drugs for many, many years. And he is a completely different person, received a pardon from the governor, and is just high on life now.
Yeah, that's amazing. And his story gives me a lot of hope, actually. You know, life is about learning and experience, and sometimes we make so many mistakes, but they don't have to define us. And I love that about Eric's message, and I'm grateful he was here today.
Absolutely. It was so uplifting to have someone tell us something that they were able to overcome, and that they didn't do it by themselves, that they did it through faith, that they did it with the help of others, and that they received that help, that they accepted it, and were able to do something positive.
Right, and I guess we always think about people are put in a position for a reason, you know, the blessings versus curses. He could be a blessing to many people, helping them not to go down the wrong road. And so what was a curse could actually be a blessing. Mm-hmm. And it's just so nice, honestly, that we can talk about stuff like this. You can't talk about it on mainstream media, but anyway, just to have someone in so upbeat. He's been there, done that, he survived it, and now he can teach others how to avoid that type of lifestyle.
And isn't that what we're all supposed to do?
Right. And I have a new best friend. I'm so excited.
He said we're all his best friends.
He takes it seriously. He will call you his best friend. He really means it because he's so sincere, and you can just feel that when you listen to his story.
You really can.
There's so much sincerity. And it's a reminder to us, a lot of times we look at people who are breaking the law and druggies, and we say, you know, we think of them as low life. We have to remember they are a child of God. We don't know their circumstances.
And he was very bright. He was at the top of his class.
Yeah.
And sometimes kids like that slip through the cracks. Like the teachers aren't doing their jobs in that sense where, and I know they're overwhelmed with everything, but when you see a student that might be going down the wrong road, please reach out to them and try to help them rather than, you know, hammer down on them. There's just, everyone has a different way of communicating, and they're looking for, he was clearly looking for something, you know, wasn't felt like he was included in different groups, and nobody did anything to try to bring that together.
You know, that could have made all the difference. My husband and I used to run a group home for delinquent boys for 3 years. I have a degree in social work, and I worked in the field, and I'm also a writer. So I was interviewing a family on their child who went through treatment, and they said something that was interesting. The family had moved to the area, and they said when there are cliques, a lot of times the easiest one to get into is the low-level one, because the kids that are using drugs, the misfits, they'll accept anybody. Yeah. But some of the kids, maybe the athletes, and sure, if you're not an athlete, you might not fit in there, but just being open and looking for those, and I don't even care if it's just kids. I go places as an adult sometimes, and I'll see somebody sitting there by themselves, and the people that know each other, like, take a moment, no matter how old you are, maybe at the nursing home even, you know, or whatever grade school on up, look around for that person that doesn't fit in. You know, that could have made all the difference. Yeah. If Eric would have had 1 or 2 good friends that weren't using drugs, maybe he never would have gotten into it.
Yeah.
So anyways, I want to, just for a little upbeat moment, there's probably most of you are familiar with these flash mobs where all of a sudden you're sitting in the mall or at a restaurant, and once one person stands up and starts singing, and before you know it, you're surrounded by people. There you go.
Flash mob.
You need to. Here we are. We could have one right here. Kendi is it. So we don't have those with COVID right now. I hope they will return, but I just did a short little clip from one in a mall.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
awesome.
that was great.
I wanted something uplifting in the Christmas spirit, and like, yeah, the secondary benefit is being able to watch the video if you weren't there. That is so uplifting.
Yeah. That's,
Yeah.
It's
I wanna go
on my
dance.
goal list. I'm going to do it before I'm done in this world. I can't wait.
It's so much fun for everybody. Just imagine if you know you're part of it and you're just, looking like a shopper and you get to stand up. So with 1 minute left, do you have any parting comments for everybody?
So this is my last time of being on today before Christmas, and I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and I hope that you enjoy this special time of year.
And I hope that all of you that are traveling have a safe journey and that you are able to spend it with those that you love. Merry Christmas.
And I'm going to ditto all of that, but also to put that North Dakota warning out there. We're supposed to have a blizzard tomorrow or some tough weather, so do be careful because right now we haven't driven on ice and snow yet, so be careful when you're trying to get to your loved ones.
Amen. We have been spoiled, so we have to relearn driving in the snow and how to stay warm again. But thank you for joining us today, and join us tomorrow when Senator Kevin Cramer will be in to tell us what's going on with North Dakota on Ladies of Another View on Beck.
You missed it.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.